So what do you do when you keep giving, serving, or showing up and nobody seems to care at all? And I think there's a mistake that we make when we feel unappreciated, and scripture has something to say about this. And for a long time, I thought the issue was that people just didn't appreciate me, but there was an issue much deeper under the surface that I really didn't want to come to terms with and was really hard to admit to myself. And that's really what I want to talk about today. Not just that feeling overlooked hurts, which it does, but how feeling unappreciated doesn't necessarily have to determine how we view ourselves. Because if we're being honest, and I had to be honest with myself, where are you seeking your validation from? And if we look at Galatians 1:10, the passage says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." And that's something I had to ask myself, honestly, when I was volunteering at a church and I committed 3 years to volunteering with middle school guys. And one thing that I learned from the church or just people in general is that, to be honest, they will let you waste your time. Because I spent 3 years trying to build a community with these guys, with the church, and we were there in the church with fancy lighting, fancy couches, sunlight coming in, snacks on the table, and still nobody wanted to be there. The kids didn't want to be there. The parents didn't answer emails. And at the end of the day, the church kept running the same repetitive program over and over again. And eventually they had to shelve the program at the end because it didn't really get the engagement that I think they were looking for. And eventually I ended up leaving the church, so I didn't really see how the program turned out, but kind of proves my point where it's just that people don't appreciate your time. And it hurts, especially from a church setting where you're told that, hey, your single years are the best years. They are the time that you can give all of your free time and serve, and you don't have the distractions of marriage. And then at my very best time to be able to serve, I'm not appreciated, I'm overlooked, and I don't get a thank you or anything like that. And essentially, I got a front row seat to what felt like 3 years of wasted effort, but I had to really sit with myself and ask myself, am I doing this for the applause of them? Am I doing this for the applause of man, of regular people? Or am I knowing that God is watching me and he's appreciating and he's sowing seeds and he's working within me and through me? And I really had to just come to terms with that. And maybe you know exactly what that feels like. Maybe it's not at church, but you're dealing with a spouse situation or a friend that doesn't appreciate you or a sick relative or family member, and you keep giving and you're not feeling appreciated. And I completely understand, because the thing is, no matter what the situation is, the pain still feels the same. And I completely feel for you and what you're going through right now. And I thought the core of the problem was just that people didn't appreciate me, but the real issue was that I was using them as a way to determine my self-worth and how good of a job I was doing, which was tough to come to that realization. And the thing is, people can really be selfish and take your time up, but I couldn't let that selfishness or that lack of appreciation determine my identity. And as I was digging into this heart issue, I looked at Colossians 3:23 through 24. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that for the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. And then I had to keep diving in, and I was thinking, does scripture really support how I'm thinking? And this might sound nice and all, but does God really care? Is he watching us and seeing the efforts that we're putting through? And so I had to keep going into scripture. And if we take a look at Hebrews 6:10, it says, "For God is not unjust so as to overlook your work and the love that you have shown for his name in serving the saints, as you still do." And so I got that confirmation, and I thought that's all well and good, but if I'm supposed to be doing this for the Lord, how does this change how I live my life? And one thing I had to come to terms with was stop making appreciation the measurement of if something mattered. Something is valuable even if someone doesn't clap for it. And I had to realize, hey, I don't need a thank you every time. So if I open a door for an old lady and I say, "I hope you have a great day," and then she just walks right past me and says nothing and doesn't say a thank you, am I content with the fact that God saw that action, that God is okay with the fact that I opened a door for an old lady and made her day a little bit easier, even if she doesn't appreciate it in the moment? And I also had to start asking, is God actually wanting me here? And especially in the Christian space or in the church, you don't have to say yes to everything, which is something that I felt like I had to say yes to and to give my time. And you don't have to remain somewhere simply because you said yes once. And you have to ask yourself, is God really having me serve here? Or am I trying to earn my significance? Am I trying to earn some sort of validation. And I feel like that's really where freedom starts. That's where freedom started for me, was that you can enjoy appreciation, you can love the compliments that people give you, but you don't need it. You know that you're secure in the Lord, and that whatever works that you're doing are, seen by Him. But knowing that is one thing, and actually putting that into action is another thing. So you have to continue to take those steps. And there are a few steps that you can take in order to put this new knowledge into action. First, you can pause before reacting. If someone makes a side comment or somebody doesn't say thank you, you can pause and you can make sure to emotionally assess the situation before reacting. And then you could ask yourself, what was I hoping to get? Was I hoping to get recognition, validation, approval, a thank you? What was I trying to get that warranted or made this emotion come out of me where I wanted to react to this? And another thing you can do is you can bring that desire to God. You can pray upon it. You can bring these emotions, these difficult circumstances to God, and you could really sit on it and say, hey, is this relationship, is this thing that I'm engaging in for me? If it's a one off with an old lady at a door, that's one thing. But if it's a friendship, a family member that you're invested in, you've been giving your time in, then it's really time to kind of sit down with God and just say, hey, what is this doing for me? Is this spiritually making me exhausted, or is this bearing good fruit? Is this uplifting my character? Is this making me feel better? And for me, eventually with the middle schoolers, I had to say, no, it's not. And maybe at the beginning it was, but towards the end, I said, it's time to go. And once you take these actions, there's going to be a vision, or there's going to be an outcome to your life that's going to change. And that's what I'm excited for the most, is just seeing how these changes are going to impact me in the future. And if you want to look into some of the areas where you could finally see your life change, and for me, the biggest thing is a sense of peace, that I'm not constantly there scanning for people's reactions. Did I do the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? Am I being enough for this person? I can be at peace and say that what I've given is my full effort, and it's really my true heart of giving. And if that's not enough, then oh well, I know the Lord knows that it's enough. You can be someone who shows up and is not constantly needing affirmation, and that can be great because you can show up for that family member who might be difficult, and you might not want to spend all the time in the world with them, but you can still continue to love and give time to them, and then know, hey, they didn't say thank you, but I know God's watching, and I know that He appreciates the time that I've given to them and the seed that I've maybe planted in them, that you don't know what God is working through. And just imagine how much energy that you would get back, just not having to worry and constantly ruminate on if somebody appreciates you or somebody values you, or et cetera, et cetera. And if you want to keep going, I have another video here on screen that I feel like could be helpful. And if you want more conversations like this, go ahead and subscribe and let me know in the comment section below what's something that you've been learning about yourself lately. I'd appreciate it. And I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.